Hello, this is Terry Talaferro reporting live from Sacramento. I'm not really reporting. I'm getting ready to read a document that I wrote when I was in the PhD program at the University of Arizona Global Campus, and they just lost to the University of Michigan tonight. Something on my lens. Hold on. Anyway, still kind of there. There we go. So this essay is called Multiculturalism, Anti-Harassment, Inclusion, and Ethics, Identifying a Problem of Practice. It's by me, Terry Talaferro. It's available on Amazon. And I think you can download it for free now. But anyway, identifying a problem of practice, discrimination, harassment, exclusion, and unethical decision-making in the classroom and the workplace by Terry Talaferro. This is the abstract. Identifying a problem of practice. Oh my gosh. Could I read it again? Could I read the title again? Okay, here we go. EEOC Equal Employment Opportunity Commission statistics show that there were 67,448 charges of discrimination filed in the 2020 fiscal year. That's from EEOC 2021 data. I believe I got it online. I researched it online and I located it through the EEOC website. In 2020, the EEOC responded to 779,775 inquiries by phone in field offices and through a scheduling system, EEOC 2021. Despite the fact that the charges of discrimination were lower in 2021 than in 2020, I think is what I meant to say. And I was going to check that data. 2020 and 2021. The EEOC is still handling inquiries and complaints of discrimination around the U.S. The goal of this paper is to restructure a classroom and organizational system that is jeopardizing the safety of students and employees throughout the country. While there are situations in which the EEOC fails to assist employees who have made valid sexual harassment and discrimination claims against institutions, it is necessary to have these complaints in writing in order to start the process for an appeal if there is no resolution. The dissertation project to be completed in the next 5 to 10 years will be toward the development of a multicultural anti-harassment, inclusion, and ethics workshop and curriculum to provide training, dialogue, information, and resources to employees and students. I just ate something and I just drank some iced tea, so I'm like trying to finish that up in my mouth and it's not quite working. Okay, so the purpose of the workshop is to prevent discrimination, unconscious bias, microaggressions, exclusion, sexual harassment, and unethical decision-making in the classroom and the workplace. The objective is for the workshop to persuade organizations and districts to change guidelines, regulations, and standards related to multiculturalism, sexual harassment, inclusion, and ethics, and to use musical theater, television, employment law, and conversations as resources to stop Title VII violations in the classroom and workplace. The problem of practice. The problem of practice, UCD School of Education, no date, which I defined as, and which addresses discrimination, microaggressions, unconscious bias, pay inequity, sexual harassment, retaliation, issues of inclusion, and ethics issues in the school and workplace. Okay, I probably have to rewrite that sentence, but these issues continue to be addressed and handled through entities such as the EEOC and the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. Ethical decision-making is the main issue surrounding all the problems. The issue of what is right and wrong in the workplace and the classroom sets the standard for verbal and nonverbal behavior in both environments and creates an environment in which students and employees either feel as though they are welcomed and encouraged or demeaned and degraded. Why this is a problem of practice. This problem of practice is a critical dilemma that makes work and school environments unsafe for students and employees. Race discrimination, sexual harassment, retaliation, and Title VII violations that include discrimination based upon age, disability, and sexual orientation are ongoing in both environments. The table below shows the number of retaliation, disability, race, sex, and age Title VII violations filed by employees in 2020. Mr. Word. Okay, table 1. The EEOC releases fiscal year 2020 enforcement and litigation data. EEOC 2020. So in the first column, I've listed categories: retaliation, disability, race, sex, and age is what I included in this table. And then second column is lists the number of charges per category. So for retaliation, 37,632 charges, disability, 24,324 charges, race, 22,064 charges, sex, 21,398 charges, and age, 14,183 charges. Okay, so okay. And then the third one is a little bit confusing because it just shows the percentage of all charges filed. So it's the category and then in comparison to all of the charges and what the percentage is in relationship to that. So I'm not going to read all that. But wait, the highest percentage of charges filed, according to this data, was the retaliation charge. 55.8% of charges filed. Okay. Specific population impacted by this problem. The target populations are employees in the workplace as well as students from K to career who also face sexual harassment and discrimination issues inside and outside of the classroom. Federal law protects students against discrimination in education, but currently students are not protected against bullying by any current federal laws specifically addressing the problem. StopBullying.gov 2006. Bullying is also known as, quote, discriminatory harassment, end quote, and could be included under federal laws related to civil rights. StopBullying.gov 2006. The environment or setting of the problem. I'm thinking I may have read this before, but it's okay. I'm going to be redundant tonight. The problem resides in both schools and organizations. While the EEOC addresses employment-related discrimination, harassment, and retaliation issues, among others, state laws protect students against harassment in schools. StopBullying.gov 2006. So when I'm reading like that's the footnote. Okay, states that currently require bullying prevention programs do not have consequences for the bullies and, quote, very few classify bullying as a criminal offense, end quote, which I don't even understand how that cannot be classified as a criminal offense. When it's repeated, tormenting, taunting, assault, whatever, I don't get it. Okay, StopBullying.gov 2006. These problems continue in schools and school districts as well as the workplace. How the problem impacts individuals and groups. The problem of practice impacts individuals and groups because racist, homophobic, unethical, sexist incidents occur that are psychologically and sometimes physically harmful to students and employees in the classroom or work environment. Unconscious bias, discrimination, microaggressions, unethical behavior, sexual harassment, and retaliation are some of the results of bad policies, regulations, school and workplace culture and climate that fails to provide support to Title VII groups of students and employees of diverse backgrounds. I think culture and climate really have a lot to do with this. It's like if you condone the behavior as an employee witnessing it, and you don't speak up about it, and you're not supportive of it, then I just think that just creates for a problem. It sort of starts a cycle of that kind of behavior. It's not, and I think it is sort of an employee's responsibility to at least inform another employee of what might be happening. But some people just want to go in and do their job, and that's it. These problems also result in payment and promotional inequities and intentional separation and termination of employees based upon differences in background. EEOC statistics show that while the number of charges filed against organizations for race discrimination is less than it was 25 years ago, last year, according to, I'm reading from a 2020 stats. So 22,064 charges were filed. EEOC 2020. Of those, 16,566 cases were found to have no reasonable cause for action after an investigation by the EEOC. That's a lot. This only shows that with regard to race, as one example, the problem has not gone away in the workplace. EEOC 2020. Okay, I actually at one point I think I had added up like all of the cases and then sort of did I think I divided it by 50 states and the number. So I found that potential number of cases per state, and that's not really probably a correct number, but just like a hypothetical number. And then, I mean, based upon actual numbers, but for me to include every state in those numbers would probably be inaccurate. But it was a small number per state. It was not a huge number when you're thinking of the number 16,566 cases. That seems pretty large to me. But if you divide it among all states, it's really not that big. But still, I think any complaint is a complaint. It's a legitimate complaint. Okay, theater, especially if it's investigated and there's some finding, and even if there isn't really, it's still a complaint is a complaint. And typically, people are not complaining unless they are actually experiencing or witnessing something that should not be happening in the workplace, or that. This is mostly the workplace. This is. I think these stats are not from any classroom, but I'm not really sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm guessing this is mostly the workplace. Theoretical frameworks in the dissertation study on this topic. The abstract of theory of generative interactions across diversity, end quote, describes described the development of skills and positive communications to assist in the creation of inclusive environments that will prevent, quote, self-segregation, communication apprehension, stereotyping, and stigmatizing in organizations. Bernstein, Bolger, et al., 2020. Sorry, I don't have the pronunciation for everybody's name. This theory explains part of the problem and provides solutions related to diversity, equity, and inclusion in schools and organizations. However, it only addresses diversity and inclusion and not harassment or ethics. Ethics is the foundation for all the elements of a positive, multicultural, anti-harassing, and inclusive workplace. Knowing what's good and bad, and doing the good thing, the right thing, is what you're hoping for in a workplace environment. Diversity is the representation of people with many different backgrounds within one organization. Inclusion not only incorporates diversity, but consists of the concept of involvement by these diverse groups in the quote organizational process and culture, end quote, culture, end quote. I prefer actually multiculturalism over diversity, and multicultural workplace over a diverse workplace, because I think when I originally researched the word, it didn't include all groups. So, but it's been a while since I looked it up, so I need to do, my research on the word itself. Diversity in, I'm going to use diversity for as I wrote it. Diversity in an organization is considered, quote, generative, end quote, or multiplicative if it offers solutions to the problem. Okay. And then Bernstein, Bulger et al., 2019. The problem of practice may be addressed and resolved through the proposals, parentheses, offered by Bernstein, Bulger et al. In the theory of generative interactions. By designing opportunities within the workplace classroom for employees and students to have frequent interaction, to work together on projects collaboratively, and to make contributions as equal members of a group. Because I think you can collaborate on a project, but if you have let's just say 5 or 6 people in the group, and there's really only one person or two who are speaking up and making a contribution in their responses and suggestions, and even in a part of the project that they may have worked on, then you're not really being all, I don't want to use the word inclusive, but not everyone is participating. So, and they're not participating. I think that's the most important thing, is that there is no equal participation. And there may even be okay, I'll just give you an example. I know as a TA, when I was TAing a persuasive communications class at the University of Michigan, the students were, I think we were assigned, or I assigned to them, it was me assigning them, a project based on advertising, as I recall. It's been quite a few years now. That was like 1991 to 92. And they worked in groups. So I think there were about 5 per group. And then each one of the students was responsible for a part of the project. And they each presented. So I'm not really sure how the cooperative aspect of that worked out, and the I don't know how they work together and putting everything together in the practice part of it before they actually presented, and how much work really went into everyone's part of the project, and whether there was more work done on one person's part than the other. But they had sort of equal time, like equal presentation time. So hold on one second, I'm gonna burp. Excuse me. That was kind of gross, but whatever. Putting the theory into practice through problem of practice proposals could assist, I'm sorry, sort of laughing at myself now, could assist any organization or school in the design of programs that will decrease the number of discrimination, sexual harassment, retaliation, and inclusion issues among students, coworkers, or employees and managers. Okay, so I'm suggesting that working together on projects like this may decrease the number of issues related to the topics that I've mentioned multiple times. Strategies and solutions to address the issue. The solution and strategy that will be developed for my dissertation and research will be the result of the Multiculturalism, Anti-Harassment, Inclusion, and Ethics, Mahai Taliaferro 2021 workshop that I will be designing for students and employees. The goal of the workshop is to change the rules, guidelines, and regulations related to the classroom and workplace to prevent discrimination, sexual harassment, retaliation, exclusion, and unethical decision making in schools and in the workplace, and to build viable support networks for students from K to career. The research will be conducted. The research to be conducted will only be in 2 or 3 schools and organizations among groups of students and employees who will participate in the workshop, and then I will follow up via an interview and a survey to determine whether the rules, regulations, and guidelines have been changed as a result of the workshop. The workshop and curriculum will assist students and employees who may be the victims of discrimination and harassment. The workshop will develop a curriculum of culture to incorporate contributions made by each member of the workshop group. So anti-harassment issues will be addressed by explaining Title IX and the laws surrounding sexual harassment and harassment in the school and the workplace. Inclusion will cover Title VII and the Civil Rights Act and explain gender, gender identity, race, age, and disability. The ethics section of the workshop will concentrate on ethical decision-making in the workplace related to nonverbal and verbal communications. Okay. And I didn't talk about, here we go. Okay. The workshop will incorporate diversity, equity, inclusion theories, including the generative theory described above, and will encourage participants to design employee events and office projects, as well as school events and projects that include every member of the office community and students. Diversity workshops and curriculum for the classroom and the office will continue throughout elementary, middle, high school, and college, and throughout their career. These workshops will require students and employees to work toward the mission, goals, and vision of the school and the organization or organization. Okay. Inclusion. I didn't really talk about the multiculturalism aspect of this, but I think that that could be incorporated in many different ways, including introducing, and I believe one of my assignments in the PhD program was to create a podcast in which I included a couple of scenes from different musicals, and I put in part of the music from You Have to Be Carefully Taught in there to make a statement about that could be, it's sort of timeless, as well as it crosses all workplaces and classrooms in the message. So that's one, as an example of one work that could be used when discussing multiculturalism and even discrimination, and opening the discussion up to race issues in particular. Conclusion. Mahai will fill the gap that DEI leaves behind by resolving the problems of practice through observable changes in classroom and workplace behavior as a result of a potentially punitive policy changes that save the victims and create positive environments for everyone working in the office or the classroom. Okay, I would probably rewrite that and say it differently in the future, but that's basically what I'm trying to say, is that my theory, the Mahai theory, multiculturalism, anti-harassment, inclusion, and ethics will fill the gap that DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion leaves behind. Because I think that I'll be talking more about the legal aspects of these issues in the workplace, with the hope that there will be people will be more motivated to want to improve the situations. It's sort of like preventative care, you know, wanting to educate people about the need and the potential punishment as a result of the behavior, um, in a more what's the word, in a friendlier way. Okay, so that's introducing popular culture in the introduction of and maybe not so much the legal aspects of it, but uh, the multicultural aspects of it, and even the inclusive aspects of Mahai, of the workplace and the classroom. The problem of practice focuses on the issues of discrimination, sexual harassment, exclusion, and unethical decision making in the classroom and the workplace. EEOC statistics show that despite the lower number of total charges filed with the EEOC from 1997 to 2020, um, have decreased from 80,680 to 67,448. EOC 2020 issues related to the problem practice and the issues associated with discrimination, sexual harassment, inclusion, and ethics continue to exist. So, even though the charges have decreased over that time period, the 3-year time period, there's still issues. There's still, I mean, it hasn't decreased by a significant number. Actually, yeah, that is pretty significant. 80,000 to 67,000. That's pretty significant. But there's still problems. I think that's the issue. There's still, and some of them are unstated. They're unstated. Okay, so ethical decision making is the foundation for creating collaborative and multicultural environments. I kind of use that as the foundation for behavior, because you have to decide what is good and what is bad, and know what is good and what is bad in behavior in the workplace before you can really start thinking about how you're going to change the behavior and what can be condoned and what can't be. Okay, because Title VII violations and inclusion issues continue to affect school districts and workplaces around the country, developing strategies and systems for improving the lives of students and employees is critical to creating classrooms, schools, districts, and organizations that are safe places to learn and work. I think that's really the bottom line there. Because if you're creating something safe, then you're creating something good, right? You start out with a goodness. We want to create something good. So, and good would be safe, and safe would mean this type of behavior. Okay, so Mahai will incorporate important musical theater, television, and legal elements to educate students and employees about ways to embrace differences, to tear down the problem of practice, and build positive solutions. And I figure out, let's see. And then I put a figure in here of what it might look like. And I realized I didn't really address the television, the incorporation of television in there, and television news in the discussion. But again, I think I've mentioned in like the last video or the video before that, that I have the entire workshop sort of planned out and organized. So I may reveal that, because at this point, I don't plan on finishing my degree. So, all of the articles, websites, My own dissertation and research, questioning, everything is listed in the book. And I guess I could put it here, like in the comments, at least part of the references, list of references. Okay, well, I guess that's it. How many minutes have I been going? 30 minutes for 11 pages. That's a long time. Have a good night.